Hi, my name is Aaron Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer and professional traveler. Today I'm going to talk about, is the Sony RX100 VII VII better than the Sony RX100 VA, the modified version, which is what I'm holding right now? Is it really worth to upgrade? Let's find out. So, is it really worth to upgrade your camera from the Sony RX100 5 or 6 or 4 or 5A to the new Sony RX100 VII? Well, that's what I'm going to cover in this video, because a lot of people are struggling with it because Sony has put in some incredible features into the new camera, but it has a couple of major things that it's missing, and that's what I want to talk to you about today. But before we do that, if you wouldn't mind hitting subscribe, that helps me continue bringing this channel to you. And also, if you don't mind, just put a comment below, scroll to the bottom and put a comment and let me know some ideas for videos about your camera and things that I can help you with. And that way I can keep videos going. It makes it much, much easier than me trying to come up with crazy ideas about this. So Sony this summer has just come out with the Sony RX100 VII VII. And I have to say, it specs out as an ultra incredible camera. I mean, that thing just, the ability of the new cameras is just mind-blowing. Now, it was 7 years ago I took my Sony RX100 VI original, no mark number, to Antarctica. And this thing filmed most of my entire show, Antarctic Tears, at -40 and -50 degrees. I mean, it rocked. March forward several years. Earlier in this year, summer, I bought the RX100 5A or VA, depending on how you read that. And I totally loved this camera. I mean, initially, I thought I would hate the flip out screen because it definitely adds some weakness, but so many times I'll be selfie filming, and that's actually a pretty huge thing. Now, both the 5A and the 7 have the flip out screen. I mean, they flip down, they can go to 45 degrees, so you can do above filming. They have all sorts of options. But what I'm going to talk about is a major factor why I will not give up my RX100 5A. So let me check out my notes here so that way I don't make a mistake. The number one reason I'm not going to give up or rush out to buy the Sony RX100 VII is simply this. The lens on the 5A is way faster, 2 stops. Now, that doesn't sound like much, like, oh, what's 2 stops difference? But it is the difference between getting a blurry, garbagey shot and a noisy shot versus being able to shoot in pretty dark conditions and getting a spectacular image. So let me just give you an idea of what the difference is. If I'm shooting with this camera at, say, 1/60th of a second, and it's got some electronic stabilization, the new cameras, the 5A and the 7, have intelligent electronic stabilization, which is actually really, really impressive. It works well. I'm going to turn that on and I'll show you. Let's see, here we go. I'm going to show you, I'll turn that on and I can indicate. So both cameras have the steady shot. They're the standard, the active, and then the intelligent active. Not available in this record setting, of course. Let me turn that on again. Typical. Standard, intelligent, active. Great. Oh, I'm at 30p at 60. Great, never mind. Okay, I don't want to bother with that. So you see the option there. This steady, intelligent, active is really, really handy. And it works quite well. I've got my camera set up to a different setting. So the thing about the RX100 5A, I'll just call it the 5A model, is this 1.8 lens can shoot, let's say, in darker conditions at 1/60th of a second. And that's pretty good. But the RX100 VII would go from 1/60th to 1/30th to 1/15th of a second for the equivalent focal length on the camera. Now, if you're running around and you're shooting general or generic travel information, or just running around town or doing whatever, which this is an expensive camera. Now it's, I don't know, whatever, $800 some odd dollars, and the 7 is $1,100. Check the links below, see that. But even though this camera is a couple $100 cheaper, it actually has a much faster lens on it. Now, in photography, people pay huge dollars for faster lenses. I mean, like big bucks. You look at a Nikon or a Canon, and to get 2 more stops of light, you might have to go from a $300 lens to a $3,000 lens. Now that's the thing, the 5A is actually capable of shooting 10, let's say it gets in 4 times the amount of light, or however you want to measure that. But that is a major factor why I won't give up my 5A, because so often when I'm traveling, I'm in darker locations, not in dark alleys, but are in buildings or anything. And even though the 7 has an incredible zoom, it goes out to 200 millimeters, this guy only goes out to 70 millimeters. That zoom, I don't really use it that much. I mean, the 70, it's a little bit short for me. I wish it were about 105. The 200 millimeter, I don't know, I guess. I mean, I'm certainly not out there photographing animals with this camera. But the ability to shoot indoors in the dark while keeping my shutter speed pretty high and keeping the ISO down, which is really important, because it looks like, based on the specs of the 2 cameras, the 5A, the 6, and the 7, it looks like they have the same 20 megapixel sensor, or 20.8. So that speed difference alone, that's why I didn't buy the 7. I was like, oh my gosh, it has a microphone port, it has, see, what the heck else does it have? It has the extra telephoto lens, it shoots even crazy faster. It has the all-critical headphone jack. I mean, if Sony would create a 5A version with a fast 1.8 lens with a headphone jack, I would order it online today. I would sell this on B&H or eBay or whatever today. Maybe I keep it as a backup. I mean, there would be no question. Also, the 6 and the 7 have interval shooting, so you can do time lapse, which is really cool. But the other factor that the 7 does not have over the 5A is that the 5A has built-in ND filters. So what does that mean to you as a travel photographer, as a vlogger, or a real photographer or anything? The ND filter, which is controllable in the camera, actually allows you to get shallower depth of field shots for a particular focal length and aperture. That is a huge differentiating factor. Now, what do I mean by ND filter? That's called neutral density filter. So inside the camera, it has the ability to block the sensor and get the aperture to open wider, and that allows for shallower depth of field, meaning that nice blurry background effect. So the 5A has the ND filters built in, but the 7 does not. And the reason for that is because Sony felt the need, we need a super telephoto 200 millimeter, which is crazy in a little camera like this. Now you have an f2.8 lens, you put an ND filter in front of that, even wide angle, it's going to be too slow. It's just going to be too dark. The ISO is going to come up, which means there's more gain, which means there's more noise. It's really not that useful. So having a pokey 2.8 lens on that crazy telephoto is actually a big disadvantage. If Sony would have said, hey, maybe an f1.8, let's go to an f2 lens and 100 millimeters with a microphone jack on there, and it's got this cool OLED or viewfinder pop up. I mean, this thing is gorgeous. I love that ability to do the pop up, so I'm not sitting there staring at a screen. That feature I really love. But the 6 does not have the 7 doesn't have the fast lens, and it doesn't have the ND filter. And even though the 7 has the microphone jack, and I'm like, oh, if I had the microphone jack, that would allow me to do and hook up and do all this. I'm still not going to buy it because I paid way more money than the 6 and the 7 came out so immediately. I'm like, oh gosh, I could have got this for way freaking cheaper, but that's just the way it is. But this faster lens is so valuable to the travel photographer and the ND, to the vlogger and everybody that make their images look good, that the 7, that super long lens, man, the major factor, who cares about shooting speed for the 7, is if you like touch screens on the back. I hate touch screens on the back. You have gloves on or something, it's a pain. And the audio jack is the reason to get the 7. But if you want a fast professional camera that's now way cheap for what you get, the 5A is the best steal in the pocket point and shoot market. Can't say enough about it. So hopefully I've clarified to you one of the great reasons why the 5A is still arguably the best pocket travel camera on the market. The 7, I love that audio, but not for losing the fast lens. My name is Aaron Linsdau. I'm a polar explorer and professional traveler. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. That helps me keep bringing this info to you. And also, please support me on Venmo, PayPal, and Patreon. Thank you very much for watching.